Now, this here are the different stages of development according to Piaget. Okay, so stages of cognitive development. We have 4 different stages here: sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. Okay, so for you to be able to memorize this, remember this easily, I usually teach my students to use acronyms or mnemonics. So what you can use is SMART, people, cook, fish. Okay, so again, that's SMART, people, cook, fish. Okay, so that's sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. Let's take a look at the different stages that you have here. Sensory motor, experiencing the world through senses and actions. Okay, hence the term sensory motor. This is from birth to nearly 2 years old. Now, some of the things that your child may experience here is object permanence and stranger anxiety. Now, it is very important, as you can remember, when you had a child, or maybe when you had your nieces and your nephews in their crib. Okay, sa crib ng inyong nieces and nephews, you'd always have the mobile. Okay, may mga nakasabit na colorful, may iba-ibang sounds, may iba-ibang shapes, may iba-ibang colors, because this is your sensory motor stage nga, no? They learn through the use of their senses. They learn through the use of their hands. Okay, so they easily touch, they easily grab, they easily pull. Whatever it is that they hold, they grab and they pull, no? So nananabunot yung student, or yung not student, the child during this stage. Okay, now also again, we've talked about the developmental phenomena that would happen in this stage. The first one, the object permanence. Now, before object permanence, bago magka-object permanence, no, this is what you call the stage of out of sight, out of mind. Okay, so if the child does not see an object, the child would forget about the object. Okay, the child will think that the object does not exist. That's what we call out of sight, out of mind. That's why during this stage, the child enjoys what you call your peekaboo. Okay, in Ilonggo, we call this watika. I don't know what you call that in Bulacan, no? You peekaboo, watika, no? They enjoy this activity because they do not have object permanence yet. Okay, so when you cover your face, they forget about you. Okay, and so when you open your hands to reveal your face, they'd be very surprised, okay, that you're there. That's the lack of the child's object permanence. Now, once the child has already developed object permanence, now you see, or you've noticed, that the child now is going to have separation anxiety, bago yung stranger anxiety, no? Separation anxiety, yung alam na niya na the mother exists even if he or she does not see the mom. Okay? So pag nakikita niya yung, ayun, Itbulaga. Itbulaga, ang cute naman. Itbulaga talaga. Hindi yan paid advertisement, ha? Itbulaga pala yung tawag sa inyo, no? Sabi ni Ma'am Pauline. Okay, yung separation anxiety natin, dahil nga may object permanence na siya, alam niya na yung nanay niya, kahit wala sa harap niya, kahit hindi niya nakikita yung nanay niya, his or her nanay exists. Alam na niya na meron siyang nanay. So kahit hindi niya nakikita, alam niya na that the nanay exists. Kaya pag nakikita niya ngayon yung nanay na pupunta sa work, iiyak na siya. Okay? So alam niya kasi na meron siyang object permanence, no? Alam niya na iiwanan siya ng nanay, so iiyak na siya ngayon. Hinahanap na niya yung nanay niya. That's object permanence. Establish na siya ng kanyang object permanence. Now, another thing that you have here is stranger anxiety. It is natural for the kids to feel stranger anxiety. No? Pag hindi nila kilala, iiyak talaga yung bata. So, hindi yan dahil hindi mo nilalabas yung bata. No? Pre-pandemic, maaaring sabihin sa'yo, pag nilabas mo yung bata at nakita yung ibang tao, binati ng ibang tao, iiyak. Tapos sabi ng neighbor mo sa'yo or kamag-anak mo, yan kasi, hindi mo kasi nilalabas yung anak mo. Kaya yan, okay? Naninibago sa ibang tao. For example, no? Hindi marunong makisalamuha sa ibang tao. But this is natural, okay? It is natural during that stage that the child has stranger anxiety. The child would feel unease or uneasy, no? Whenever the child is around people who are unfamiliar to them. Okay, so that's your sensory motor stage. Now, pre-operational stage from 2 to 6 years old, they represent things with words and images, but they don't have logical reasoning yet. Okay, now, very important parts of your development here in the child will be first, pretend play. Okay, lahat tayo nag-enjoy sa pretend play, no? Maglalagay ka ng kumot sa likod mo at gagawin mo siyang kapa. Magiging si Superman ka or si Supergirl or magiging si Darna ka. Okay? Minsan um, tatalon ka from your bintana, no? Minsan nababalian ka dahil hindi mo alam that you're doing pretend play. You think those things that you're watching on TV are true. Okay? That's pretend play. Na-enjoy natin lahat yung pretend play, no? Now, also another thing with that is that they try to develop their language. And so it's very important that you don't baby talk the child during the stage, okay? So hindi siya dapat bini-baby talk. At hindi din siya dapat around people who are saying bad words, okay? And if the child would say bad words, do not laugh at the child because the child will think that it is something good. It is something that's enjoyable because he laughed. So uulit-ulitin niya, okay? So as adults, you should be responsible in the way that they develop their language. Now, next thing, of course, is egocentrism. One hallmark characteristic of your child during your pre-operational stage is egocentrism. They think that whatever it is that's in their mind, whatever is their idea, that's also what other people would think. Okay, so yan yung egocentrism. Napaka-egocentric niya, napaka-selfish ng child during that time. Another thing, no, wala dito sa chart natin, another thing that your child may have, another characteristic would be centration. Yung centration na tinatawag mo, no, hindi niya alam. For example, if you have a classic example sa left, you have 2 glasses with equal amount of water and you put the other content in a taller, narrower glass. Then you ask the child, which one has more water? Okay, and then the child would choose the taller, narrower glass. That one would say that the child still has centration. That means the child is just focused on one aspect of the object. Okay, the child still does not know that both of these glasses, although the other one is wider and shorter, the other one is narrower and taller, both of them have equal amount of water. Okay, because the child is just focused on one aspect of the object, which is the height of the other glass. Okay, so that's centration. Now, the next stage that we have here is concrete operational. Here, the child can already think logically, but he needs to use concrete objects. Okay, so concrete objects yung ginagamit niya. There's conservation, there's mathematical transformations. We'll go to that in a few minutes. Conservation here is the opposite of centration. So kung kanina, during pre-operational stage, when you ask the child which glass has more water, the child is going to tell you that it's the taller, narrower glass. In your concrete operational, the child would tell you that they have the same amount of water. Okay, that's conservation. The child knows that even if you've changed the shape of an object, you still can conserve it. You still can put it back to its original state. Okay, so even if you have your ball of clay, for example, and you flatten it, you can still put it back into its original shape, which was a ball, okay? Yung mathematical transformations natin dito, transformations, that means the child already knows that subtraction is the opposite of addition. Okay, so that also happens during concrete operational. And of course, the most important is formal operational. In here, the child is already able to do abstract reasoning. Okay, so abstract logic, potential for moral reasoning, that's the highest form according to Piaget's stage or stages of cognitive development. Again, sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, formal operational, smart people cook fish. Okay. Now we go to the next one. Next theorist. Oh, yes. Before we go to the next theory, I've also included this because this was also from the study of Piaget. So Piaget has given us the terms schema, assimilation, and accommodation. This would also come out in your LET. Okay, now according to Piaget, schema is like our file cabinets in the brain. Okay, so we have what we call the different compartments in the brain, and we call this our schema. Sometimes in some books, some resources, they call this the scheme. Okay, the scheme or the schema. And so your ideas about some things would be placed into one schema. Okay, so that's your schema. Now, when you say assimilation and accommodation, they are opposites. Okay, so opposite sila. Minsan, yung bata would just undergo assimilation. Okay, if the child is still young, the child won't be able to do accommodation yet, and so the child would do assimilation. Ano yung pagkakaiba ng assimilation and accommodation? If this young child, for example, here knows, or if say he has a pet dog, okay, he has a pet puppy, and of course he sees the characteristics of his pet puppies. He knows that his puppy is an animal with 4 legs, with a tail, and it's also hairy. Okay, so every time now in his schema, in his brain, his schema of a dog is an animal that's hairy with 4 legs and a tail. Okay, now if the child sees a cat or a rat, for example, or a mouse, and the child calls the cat doggy, or the child calls the mouse doggy still, we say that the child still is doing assimilation. Okay, your hint here, you see the 2 S's there, the 2 S's, that's same schema, the same schema. The child is still using the same schema, so that would be assimilation. Okay, now once the child already knows the differences between these 3 animals, that even if they are all 4-legged, even if they all have tails, even if they are all full of hair, this is a dog, this one right here is a cat, and this right here is a mouse, then we'd already call it process accommodation. Okay, accommodation is a change in schema. Okay, C, change in schema. So again, that's the differences between schema, assimilation, accommodation. You'll see a lot of this in your LET. Okay, the LET would ask you about this. So make sure that you know the differences between schema, assimilation, and accommodation. Okay, so that's still part of Piaget's theory.